Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jerry B. Wolf, and you're listening to the podcast about the best superstars to come out of MidSouth. Let's get on to it. I'm going to start off with the man himself, the cowboy Bill Watts. Now, if you know anything about MidSouth Wrestling, you know that its headquarters is in Bixby, Oklahoma. I grew up no more than a few miles down the road from Bixby, Oklahoma. Liberty Mounds is my hometown. So growing up not far from where Bill Watts is from is pretty cool and it means a lot. Dutch Mantel. I don't know what to say about Dutch Mantel that ain't positive because he can take a negative and make it a positive. If you ever watch his podcast, I'm telling you, they're some of the best podcasts out there. Um, he has lived his gimmick. He has lived his character his entire life. What a joy it must be to be Dutch Mantel underneath that big old bushy mustache and rough exterior. There's somebody that's got a big old heart because Dutch Mantel's got a big one. Big cat on your lap. Uh, he, he actually played professional football. He played college ball, and he was a badass at football. There's no more that you can say about Ernie Ladd's football career. I mean, you can say a lot more than that, but when you get down to the gist of it, ain't much better than Big Cat Ernie Ladd. And in the ring, he was a commanding presence, and he was so powerful, and he had sheer strength. Junkyard Dog. He was a barrier breaker, and so was a Big Cat Ernie Ladd, being Black American and being under all the pressure that they were going through and all the feelings that they were feeling, and being able to go and perform at the highest level. I said something about a man that said something about his character. And Junkyard Dog exemplified what it meant to be the best in the ring at the time. He was not only technically sound and entertaining in the ring, fans loved him. He was a polarizing figure. Precious Paul Ellering, man, he had a different start compared to when he was managing the Legion of Doom, the Road Warrior talking animal. Precious Paul Ellering had a different look about him. He had this long blonde hair. He had these huge muscles. You go back and watch some old Mid-South Wrestling on Peacock, the network, if you will. And I promise you, you won't be let down by Precious Paul Ellen's skills. He's actually quite skilled in the ring. King Kong Bundy. Man, that was a big son of a gun. I have heard people tell me that they've actually gone to Mid-South Wrestling matches there in Oklahoma City and close up here to Tulsa. And they've seen King Kong Bundy uh, in a cage match. And they've seen uh, Kamala in a cage match. And they said that it was one of the craziest sights to behold watching somebody like King Kong Bundy in a cage match because he was so big. He was somewhat agile for a big guy. And if you've ever seen his work in WWF, you know what I mean. Ted DiBiase. Uh, there's not much uh, there's not many people in the way, and it didn't mean to say not much, but not many. There's not many people in the way of somebody who's more technically sound in the ring. Because when you go back and watch old Ted DiBiase matches from Mid South Wrestling, man, he's if he puts a headlock on you, it's going to be on you for a little bit. He's not going to let go. if you're in the figure four leg lock, you're going to be in it for a minute. He's not going to let go. Like watching him trying to perform submission maneuvers there with the figure four or even a headlock. He really knew his basics. And if you go back and watch some of his matches from MidSouth Wrestling, you can really see Ted DiBiase take off as a star long before he was $1 million man. Matt Bourne. You might know Matt Bourne a little more as Stoic the Clown in WWF's early 90s. But Matt Bourne, just like Ted DiBiase, was a great technical wrestler. He was also entertaining. He didn't have to have makeup on his face to have personality. If you go back and watch some of his promos with the Rat Pack with him and Jim Duggan and DiBiase, you really see how each one of them elevated the other and made the other better. And I think Matt Bourne brought the best out in the other guys, and they brought the best out in him. B. Brian Blair. He was just going by Brian Blair in MidSouth Wrestling. Can't remember when the B came in, and maybe it was UWF, not the Bill Watts version, but the Herb Abrams version. Yikes. But B. Brian Blair, if you watch some of his Dark Side of the Ring interviews, he's got a lot of passion for the business, and it seems like you can tell he misses being in the ring. He really can. Like, just feel it coming off of him. Seems like a genuine guy. And I'm going to have to watch some more of his matches there in Mid-South Wrestling on Peacock because it seems like I got some more research to do on him. But from what I gathered, he was a great wrestler, and he seems like a really cool guy. It seems like somebody you want to hang out with, somebody you want to be friends with. Shawn Michaels, he was in Mid South for a short while. That's where his some of his origins are, and you don't get to see HBK. You get to see Shawn Michaels at his beginnings, and he was not exactly greener than grass. He was a natural athlete, and you'd be surprised watching some of his matches on Peacock in Mid South. Bob Roop, he was a big old boy, but he could get around like somebody that was a lot smaller than him, and it's really cool watching how agile he is and how much stamina the guy has. He could make matches go for a while, or he could turn you into a pile of ground hamburger meat in minutes. Uh, Paul and Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. Uh, you could say that about his entire gimmick, his move set, Mr. Wonderful, his personality, and all of it. His son even is still active on social media, and he's always talking about his dad. So if he gets to hear this at any point, and he might, uh, we miss your dad very much, and we appreciate you interacting with us on social media. You seem like a really cool dude. Paul Orndorff, um, I've already talked about his cage match in WWF. I got to watch more Orndorff matches in Mid South. I just saw literally my first Paul Orndorff match the other day on Peacock, watching Mid South. Bob Orton, same thing. I literally just saw my first Bob Orton match the other day. It was actually decent. I can't remember who he was up against, and I think it was in a tag match. But it was actually one of the better back and forth, technically sound. Like there's counter after counter in this match, so they were really putting in work. Chris Adams, um, he's got a lot of accolades in territorial wrestling, but when it comes to WWF and WCW, I can't say that. And I don't remember him being in WWF ever. But then again, I started watching in '84, and I think he started wrestling before that. So I haven't seen a lot of his career, but I don't remember him Uh, he might have been in WCW. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. I don't know a lot about him. I just know a lot of um, about his accolades and the championships that he's held. And he seemed like a wrestler a lot of the other guys really like. I got to do more research on him. Kerry Von Erich and Mike Von Erich. Um, Mike Von Erich was only in MidSouth for literally a very short time. It was only in the span of 1 year. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was 1987, the year that they changed the UWF and then were defunct. Kerry Von Erich was there a little while longer, and I'm gonna have to look up some Von Erich matches on Mid South. I probably won't find much because I think I would have to watch more WCCW. The fantastic Bobby Fulton. I've seen a few matches from this guy and how the fans react, mainly the women, not the men. You don't see any guys standing up there getting a hug from him. I'm not trying to make any weird or rude remark out of that. I'm just thinking about it in general. You don't see guys up there hugging him. Uh, the ladies there were all getting hugs from Bobby Colton. And back then, he's got the mullet, he's got the long hair, and uh, probably got the chest hair too. I wasn't paying attention to that, and don't really care. Um, but you can tell he was the pretty boy of the promotion, and he was really over with the ladies. So if you're a lady and you're listening to this, go check out some Bobby Colton matches. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Watching a promo last night of Dusty Rhodes on MidSouth Wrestling, and he's referring to the Great Muta. And me, I've never seen Dusty Rhodes in a promo like this. He was being really serious, but he was also saying words that you would never hear him say. And he was like in this ninja phase, and he had on this camo on his face. It was really interesting. I was like, wow, this is really a different side of Dusty Rhodes that I've never seen. Uh, but apparently he made a lot of appearances on Mid South Wrestling. So go check the American Dream out on Peacock. Magnum TA. I haven't seen any Magnum team matches in Mid South yet. I've only seen some of his matches in WCW, NWA, and from what I saw, he's one of the greatest wrestlers that ever stepped foot in the ring. But because of the life, the life he's had, uh, what's happened. I don't know the entire story of what happened to him, but I know that because of the incident that happened, the made like this major uh, catastrophe, altered his career. I want to say it was a motorcycle incident, and that was it. That was it for Magnum PA. He wasn't able to come back from that, and it's really sad because he probably would have been a world heavyweight champion multiple times. Alpha and Sika, they had prominent roles in Mid South, and they were managed. I was talking about it earlier. Big Cat Ernie Ladd. They were managed by Big Cat Ernie Ladd, and I was watching. It seems like I was watching a six man tag with them last night, and it was actually great. It was really good. Coquina the Samoan. He would be later known as Yokozuna in the WWF, and you know I've only seen one of his matches on USWA, I think it was, and he was known as Coquina Maximus. I think that's right. And he had really long hair at that point. So I'm gonna have to look for some of his matches in Mid South because I really liked him when he was in WWF as Yokozuna. Tully Blanchard, um, one of the Four Horsemen, Nick Bockwinkel, and although he was only there for a short time, Hulk Hogan was in Mid South Wrestling in 1980. The Ultimate Warrior, who was then known as Blade Runner Rock, during his 98-6 run with Mid South Wrestling. Sting, he was known as Blade Runner Sting, along with his tag team partner, Blade Runner Rock. Bill Dundee was in Mid South Wrestling. Crusher, Khrushchev. He had multiple variations of this gimmick in Mid South. Beautiful Bobby Eaton. Like these are people I'm going to have to do more research on. I was prepared to do this podcast just fine. I just going over some of the people that are more established that came out of there. Not just literally everybody, but some of the more well-known people. And beautiful Bobby Eaton. He was in WCW for a few runs, and I remember him being, I believe he was in the Dangerous Alliance with Paul Heyman. Buddy Landell. It seems like I've seen him in a lot of matches because I've heard that name quite a bit. It seems like my stepdad set me down to watch wrestling the first time back in 1984, and Buddy Landell was really like heavily featured on the card. There were multiple cards because he would put, my stepdad would put in like VHS tape. We're talking about the 80s, so of course, you're gonna be watching things on the VHS or Beta. You don't hear a lot about Beta anymore, do you? But Buddy Landau was heavily featured on the tapes that my stepdad would put in, and so was Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. And it seemed like I saw a lot of matches of his. And so when I'm rewatching some of this stuff that I haven't seen in years, it's like, holy crap! I remember watching this for the first time as a I was like 2 years old when I started watching wrestling. So it was like, wow. Ric Flair. I don't know how many appearances Ric Flair had in Mid South. It seems like a lot popped up when I was watching Peacock yesterday and watching some of the Mid South matches. I only watched like 10 matches total yesterday, and they were all really short episodes. The Funks, Terry and Dory Funk Jr. They were in Mid South. I think I think Mick Foley was there too. I don't think it was for very long though, but that's definitely. I remember Mick Foley saying in one of his documentaries that he was also spending time in WCCW, and I believe that's where he got started out. But he didn't have to spend very long in Mid South or WCCW. Mike George. Those who don't know who Mike George is, he had a lot of stamina and he was really good. Uh, he was, I believe, he was world tag team champion, and it was with Junkyard Dog. So a lot of people don't know who Mike George is, but he was one of my favorites from Mid South when I started watching when I was a kid. Hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert. Um, I don't remember a lot about him. I just remember hearing his name all the time. So he was probably heavily featured in VHS tapes that I was watching as a kid. The Fabulous Freebirds as well. and I've seen more of their matches in WCCW and WCW, NWA, more than I have in Mid-South Wrestling, and the Fabulous Freebirds were amazing. Uh, I think they were one of the first few tag teams or stables for that matter that came out to rock and roll music. The one man gang. Uh, I've seen like 3 or 4 events that were here in Tulsa, where one man gang was in matches. But I believe one of them was a cage match. One of them was at the fairgrounds, the Tulsa Fairgrounds over there at 21st and Yelp, I believe it is. Where's that Lewis? It's in that area. Mondo and Hector Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero Sr. Were all in Mid South. These are all relatives of Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero Jr. And it seems like the first time I watched Mid South Wrestling in a really long time, and it was really just a few years ago. I hadn't seen Mid South for like several years because nothing was available. Now that it's on Peacock, I can watch more of it. Um, but what I was getting at is that Chavo and Hector and Mondo were all heavily featured in the matches that I was watching on Mid South. I was focusing on their matches, and they're incredible. So if you get a chance, watch their match. Chavo, Mondo, and Hector. The Assassin uh, seems like he's heavily featured in a lot of matches. He was there for a long time, and I remember when I was watching with my stepdad, I was like, "The Assassin, is he going to kill someone?" He's like, "No, don't be stupid." like he's this is And it was funny listening to him while we were watching matches because he would either say something new, it wouldn't be mean, it would just be funny to me. I didn't think nothing of it. He was a funny guy. He was always trying to be funny. Stan Hansen. Oh damn! I want to talk about his lariat, his clothesline. If you've ever seen JBL's clothesline from hell, you haven't seen nothing until you've seen Stan Hansen's lariat. Until you've seen Stan Hansen's clothesline from hell, JBL's pales in comparison. I love JBL's clothesline from hell, but Stan Hansen gave a stiff freaking clothesline. His lariats would knock the freaking wind out of you. You'd be gasping for air. Kamala, the London Giant. I've seen a ton of his matches when I was little. I've seen some of his matches recently. I saw him match literally 2 days ago. Him and the Undertaker were in a match. Uh, Seemed like it was called a coffin match, not a casket match. And he was deathly terrified of the coffin match and casket matches in general. The Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. That's my favorite tag team of all time. I could talk about them all day, but I better not. That's the reason why I'm just kind of going through this list and kind of reading off the names of some of these more prominent and featured main event guys who really made a name for themselves because I want people to hear some of these names and go, well, I need to go back and watch some of those matches with these guys are in Mid South Wrestling. But this is important. I want people to know who's in Mid South, get more familiar with it. I'm going to get more familiar with it so I can do more podcasts on Mid South. And Hawk and Animal are, like I said, they're the greatest to me. So if you love the Road Warriors, you're gonna love just how many matches they're featured in there. Bill Irwin. I don't know much about Bill Irwin. I've heard of Bill Irwin, but I know he's had a, had a long career in wrestling, and I've heard he is one of the better wrestlers. Um, I'm sure I've heard Jerry the King Lawler mention him at least a few times. I believe they were in a rivalry, and so was Bill Dundee. Brad Armstrong. I remember watching a lot of WCW matches, Brad Armstrong, and I remember really liking uh, the guy, but it seemed like he transitioned maybe into a referee, or I might be thinking about another one. I think that's another. That's Scott Armstrong. I'm thinking about, but Brad Armstrong. I believe he passed away not too long ago. Let me look that up so I don't sound like a dumbass. There we go. Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away in 2012. Yeah, those are all Georgia guys. He was born June 15th, 1961, passed away November 1st, 2012. Um, and I remember seeing it in the news. I was like, well, that sucks. Yeah, there it is. That American flag jacket. I always thought that was cool looking. There he is, featured on WCW Monday Nitro. Yeah, he had a mullet. Said he died from a heart attack. Yeah, he was taken away way too soon. It looked like he was only like 50 years old. My stepdad had passed away before he was 53. It's really bad on everybody. We still miss him. Um, let's see here. Jerry the King Lawler was in MidSouth for a while. Uh, one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. He's had great rivalries in every territory he's been in. So, and I haven't seen him on any matches in MidSouth yet. So I'm gonna have to look. Marty Lundy. And if you don't know who Marty Lundy is, that's who Arn Anderson's real name is. Uh, and I've seen two or three of his matches in Mid South, and you can tell that he's getting better, but he's like really transitioning from being kind of what you would say mid in today's terms into being um, not great, but he's definitely transitioned and he's really worked. You see him as a work in progress in Mid South. Wahoo McDaniel. I've only seen his NWA matches, so I can't tell you about his Mid South matches, but I can tell you that you should go watch them because the NWA matches I've seen him in have been incredible. He's one of the greatest wrestlers before I was really around because I was born in '82, and Wahoo was wrestling way before that. I remember my stepdad telling me what a great wrestler he was, and he was like, "This is one of the first people that really got me to watch wrestling." The Great Kabuki. I don't know a lot about him. Uh, I believe no, I really don't know enough about him, so I'm gonna have to watch some of his matches on there. I just remember what Dusty Rhodes said in the promo I was watching yesterday about the Great Kabuki. It was such an interesting promo. I'm gonna have to finish that episode. Big John Studd. If you remember his rivalry with Andre the Giant in WWF, then you'd know that they really didn't like each other at all. And so I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of his matches on Mid South because I've only seen his WWF matches. Iceman King Carson. He's actually really entertaining. And it seemed in Mid-South they had a handful of Black Americans or African Americans, and I think King Parsons was one of those guys, and he was like I said, highly entertaining. And you don't see a lot of Black Americans, African Americans being heavily featured in WWF or NWA, but let's say as time's going by, and you have some of these older promoters have passed on. Uh, People have been more open-minded and more respectful towards Black Americans and African Americans, and it seemed like Cowboy Bill Watts um, really liked them and didn't have a problem with them whatsoever, and so he was glad to feature Black Americans and African Americans on his show. Um, he was not stingy about showcasing their talents, and they really were gifted. Ken Patera, although he was in Mid South a short time, he made a bigger name for himself in WWF and in the Olympics. He had brute strength and competed in weightlifting and strongman competitions in the Olympics. So uh, go back and watch the Ken Patera matches because he's pretty incredible. Andre the Giant. I've seen a few of his matches um, in Mid South. I've seen more of his matches in WWF and AWA. Andre was he was something else. There's not much you can say about Andre except that he was just a larger than life personality, not just a large guy. He had a big heart, and he was really sensitive about his appearance and how people looked at him. And I've got a Andre the Giant beer mug that I keep in my cabinet over there, and it's got some like beer facts on there, like a beer can would disappear in Andre the Giant's hand. Like his hands were so big, it was just crazy. And I remember hearing that he drank like 124 beers in one sitting, and that's I can't even get through a 6 pack anymore. Like that's just crazy. I can barely get through 3 beers. The last time I had any beer, I had 3 beers. And I said, I'm going night night. So that shows you where my alcohol tolerance is anymore. I don't enjoy getting drunk because I don't enjoy the hangover. But Andre the Giant could hold down some beers. Dick Murdoch. Um, I've seen a lot of his matches, but I couldn't tell you about his accomplishments, like his accolades, championships he's won. I've seen him tag with Dusty Rhodes. I can't remember the name of the tag team. Uh, something to do with Texas, but I couldn't tell you the name of their tag team honestly. But I remember seeing a lot of tag matches with him and Dusty, and those were some of the first matches that I was exposed to in wrestling. And you can't get any better than Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch. Like they are both incredible professional wrestlers, and I think they're both genuine guys. I've watched some of their promos and interviews, and it's definitely somebody you would want to go drink a beer with in a bar and just listen to their road stories and listen to them about life and how they grew up. Uh, just a couple country boys who made it big. Bob Orton Sr., what I just said uh, about another country boy making it big. Bob Orton Sr., that's the grandfather of Randy Orton. And although I haven't seen a lot of his matches, I'm going to have to now, seeing that he's wrestled for Mid South Wrestling. It might have been in his later years, I might have to look for matches outside of MidSouth Wrestling and might not feature Bob Orton Sr. in his more in his prime. Might not feature him in his prime. Al Perez. I've seen matches with him in Tulsa at the Tulsa State Fair, and it was actually a great match. I was like, "Whoa, this is really good." I need to look for more of his because he's actually one of the better talents featured in Mid South Wrestling. Nikita Koloff, same thing, another great athlete that's featured there, and I can't really think of anything else to say about Nikita or Ivan Koloff in the first place. These were two guys that my stepdad told me about. He was like, you need to watch their matches because they have some of some of the best, and you'll be impressed if you stick with watching them. I never really got into them though or watched their matches, but now I'm gonna have to. Uh, my stepdad's been gone since 2013, and I wish I had asked him more about some of the matches he had seen. I don't regret anything with my stepdad because he was a good dude, and he taught me a lot. And but I just wish I had asked him more about like his amateur wrestling when he was wrestling in high school, and more about his favorite matches. It's just something to ponder on and think about because it would have been cool to know. Like Sluger, he wasn't really a wrestling guy. He was more of a football guy, and I think I said this in one of my other podcasts. He was just about making money, and he just had a good physique on him. So that was his not his necessarily his only credit to the business. But Eric Bischoff would probably say that. Lex Luger didn't draw a dime. That's what he said. I really like Lex Luger, but I haven't seen any of his Mid South matches. I've seen his WCW match. I've seen his WWF match, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So I'm gonna have to go back and look for some of these matches, and I hope you will too. And oh, it seems like I've got some more here to go over. Oh boy, how about that? The genius, Lanny Poffo. I don't know really anything about his career other than what he did in WWF, but he has another big name featured in Mid South. Um, there isn't much more the scholarly name when it comes to wrestling than Dr. Tom Pritchard, or a much more fierce competitor than Harley Race. Harley Race is his promos are like cutting butter with a knife, a cold knife. It's like it's kind of Jake the Snake esque. So I imagine Jake the Snake took a lot of his promos and how to conduct himself in interviews from Harley Race. I would say that's pretty accurate because they were both really soft spoken, but really intent with their words and fierce with their words. You could hear their mean intentions, their cruel intentions, spineless stuff. Rick Steiner. You don't get to see Scott Steiner in Mid South Wrestling, but you do get to see Rick Steiner, and he has a lot of solo matches that are just incredible. I've watched probably 10 matches of him featured on there, and I've been a big Rick Steiner fan since what 1993. I started watching in '84, but I didn't really see the Steiners compete in until then, until '93. The Natural Butch Reed. Um, you'll probably know him better in Doom with Ron Simmons, but the Natural Butch Reed. He's got a blonde dude in MidSouth Wrestling. Much he's a much different character than he is in his Doom character. The missing link. He's crazy as freaking gimmick or character there in MidSouth Wrestling. Like I've never seen anybody more bizarre than the effing missing link. Like I don't know whether I like him or if I hate him, but he's pretty freaking entertaining. And watching himself bash his head on a turnbuckle is just the weirdest crap I've ever seen. Jose was god damn. I'm trying to get over the visual of the missing link bashing his head into a turnbuckle over and over and over. Like, oh my god, why are you doing this? What's the point of this? Well, that's why it's called the missing link, isn't it? Oh sure. Jose was what's going on here? Jose Lothario. Um, if you were watching Shawn Michaels and Sid Vicious wrestle back in the '90s, you would have seen him, the Heartbreak Kid coming out to the ring with Jose Lothario. Um, I don't know anything really about his career as a wrestler. I'm going to have to give it some research and see what I can find because I like educating myself on some of these older guys. It just takes a while to educate yourself when there's so many damn wrestlers to learn about. Neil Mascaris seems like he's been in several promotions, and I've only seen a few of his matches, but I know that he was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time because I've heard several people say that. Rick Rude is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. I wish he was still here with us um, because he was one of the best personalities and the best talkers and one of the greatest ring psychologists. He just he had a great flow in the ring and Mike Rotunda, um, bless his heart. And I say this because just lost his son Bray Wyatt recently, known as better. He's known as Wyndham Rotunda to his father, which really sucks because I was a big Bray Wyatt fan. So anytime I see the name Rotunda, it's like, oh boy. So I know I'm going to talk about Bray Wyatt. So this is going to come up. Uh, I probably should focus on some of the other wrestlers, but I'll just get into this Bray Wyatt tirade, and I won't be able to stop, and I'll be into a rabbit hole that I can't come out of. It will become a tangent from another dimension. Brickhouse Brown. Well, not a lot I can say about Brickhouse Brown. I've seen him in a lot of matches, but I haven't seen any of his promos, and I don't know a lot about his personality. He's a great wrestler, though. Iron Mike Sharp, Ron Simmons. I haven't seen any of Ron Simmons Mid South Wrestling, but I've seen many of his NWA and WWF matches. And Ron Simmons is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. Seeing his World Heavyweight Championship win in Baltimore was pretty incredible. Sam Houston, well, one of the siblings of Jake the Snake Roberts, um, they got a sister named Rocket Robin. That's what she was known as during her time in wrestling. Um, there's a few others, and then maybe just one other brother, maybe just one other brother in there. Um, don't need to go into detail about everything that's happened in that family, but it's been nothing but tragic. Say the least. Got a lot of respect for Jake Roberts. That means I got a lot of respect for siblings are still alive. even if they've been in prison, because what they went through as kids is nothing short of absolute hell. Tracy Smothers. Oh man, I saw a lot of his matches in WCW. I believe it was in Southern Justice. I have to look that up. Tracy Smothers, Southern Justice. Yeah, I knew that he passed away. I knew he had an ECW run as well. Uh, I guess I was really young when I was watching some of the matches because in the 80s and 90s, nobody puts the Confederate flag in context. It's just a thing that people have around, and you don't think anything of it because you're so young. I was really young at the time, so when nobody tells you what's going on and what's all behind the Confederate flag, um, it needs to be put in proper context um, for people as they get older. As kids, it's not something that you need to worry about. But Tracy Smothers was an incredible wrestler, and I watched. There's no telling how. It really sucks that he passed away already. Tio Santana. Uh, I haven't seen any of his Mid South Wrestling matches because I've seen more WWE things. He's actually a great wrestler. I need to watch more of his matches. Just more of his matches in general, not just Mid South. Stan Stasiak, he was also in Mid South Wrestling. Um, he had a son that wrestled. Sean Stasiak. Oh, I don't need to talk about the gimmick game he had. That would just make this podcast rated M for moron. Rock and Roll Express, Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and they're still rocking. They are. They're still rocking. They're still got matches. So, seems like Ricky Morton's got a son named Kerry. He's out there wrestling now. He's trying to keep that Morton name alive. Terry Taylor. I, he's so underrated and underappreciated. I really don't get why people have to say negative things on this guy's career. Um, that he was mid or he was below average. You see a lot of people get on social media and they'll say this the dumbest thing is just to get attention because they think they know something about the business when they don't know shit. And when you see people talking shit on Terry Taylor, you take it with a grain of salt. You tell them to shove it up their ass. Big Bubba Rogers, who was known as the Big Boss Man in WWF. I miss him. I really miss the Big Boss. He was one of my favorite wrestlers. Coming out of Cobb County, Georgia, and where he was a correctional facility officer. We don't come any tougher than Big Boss Man. Real name was Ray Traylor. Uh, really wish I've met quite a few professional wrestlers, not just at events, but like me, and it really would have been cool to have shaken hands with Big Boss in a heart from the name. Dick Slater. I've seen a lot of his matches, especially in WCW. Seemed like he was tagging with Bunkhouse Buck, and that was one of my favorite tag teams for a while. I've heard a lot of people tell me that, oh my gosh, you like them? They weren't that good, and it's like I thought they were pretty good. Everybody has an opinion. Mr. Wrestling too. I haven't seen a ton of his matches, but I've seen a handful, and he's actually really good. He's I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. Just go watch Mr. Wrestling 2's match because you'll just miss out. If I say too much, it'll just reveal too much about his character and it'll ruin the performance of the match. Coco Beware. I haven't seen any of his MidSouth matches. I watched a lot of his matches in WWF. I always thought Coco Beware was cool. Coming out with the bird, and the hairdo, and the sunglasses. Seems like somebody bought an action figure of him from many years ago when I was a kid. Tony Atlas. Um, I was never a big Tony Atlas fan. I don't know why. Uh, I just never understood his appeal. Um, my stepdad talked a lot about him. He liked Tony Atlas, and he was a fitness freak. That guy will tear you apart. I believe them too. Uh, Tony Atlas seemed like really intimidating. I think that might have been a reason why I went. Because as a kid, somebody that intimidates you, you're going to be like, I don't want to mess with that guy. But Tony Atlas was an incredible professional wrestler. So, and for anybody that wants to watch a great wrestling match, uh, Mid South or any other promotion, Tony Atlas is a good bet. Larry Zabisco. I've liked Larry Zabisco more and more over the years as I watch older stuff like the Bruno San Martino and stuff on WCW. Whether I listen to on commentary or storyline with Scott Hall. Larry Zabisco had it all. He had a great person. He's still alive. Not talking like this. I'm not here anymore. I'm just talking about him in past tense stuff for his performance. Larry Zabisco's personality is just over the top. He was just very braggy. So, and it's kind of like marketing yourself. And as a professional wrestler, you have to learn how to market yourself and create your fan base. And he could be really egotistical on the mic, and you could see his arrogance in the ring. You're really going to do that to me? Let me show you this. Like the way he moves around in the ring was just smooth. Nobody could move around the ring more smooth than Larry Zbyszko. His rivalry with Bruno Sammartino, I think, was the best rivalry he ever had. Uh, when I was growing up, my stepdad watched a lot of Larry Zbyszko matches, and he used that Bruno Sammartino match as almost like a for me to look back on. Like this is something you need to like break down. Like those weren't the exact words he used. He was making it clear to me that that was an important match, and apparently it had an impact on him. So, you know, if you're trying to pass down knowledge to your kids about what you've learned in life, and if professional wrestling is that important to you, this is, what you want to watch if you really want to learn about it. Watch this. And he would always, my stepdad would always make it, a thing to stress to me how important certain matches are. It was really cool. Watching, well, I've had a lot of great memories of watching this. Because he would always point out some of the best things about it, not just uh, the entertainment that really wanted me to learn, understand, appreciate the value of the sport. And I think that was one of my stepdad's best qualities. Pardon me. I think it was just his ability to coach and teach. I think he would have been a really good coach. Damn. Chino Hernandez is another great performer in Mid South. He's also great on class. He is one of the best heels of all time. I love watching his promos in the reading depths. When you watch his Dark Side of the Ring episode, it's actually it's not just that it's really good; it's just really revealing. It's done so well that you can really take the clues and you can really figure out for yourself what really happened. Even though, well, I won't give more details of it. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but if you want to see a good episode of Dark Side of the Ring, watch the Gino Hernandez episode. Barry Windham, I couldn't tell you a lot about his career. I know he was with the Four Horsemen um, for many years, and I don't even want to talk about his WWF years because they're awful. It's just his WWF run was freaking pathetic, and it's not even his fault. Um, so I don't even really know how long Barry Windham was with MidSouth Wrestling, but it's worth going back and watching. So I'm definitely going to have to do that. Buzz Sawyer, I've heard a lot about this guy, and I've seen nothing of his matches, but I'm now my interest is really peaked. So I'm going to have to go and watch some Buzz Sawyer matches. Tom Zink, aka Z Man. I had a conversation with somebody earlier today about Z Man, Tom Zink. Some people were not as appreciative as I am of Z-Man. I have a large collection of old school WCW and WWF cards, and in those collection of WCW cards, there's like probably 5 or 6 Z-Mans, and I've got probably a total of oh 200 WCW cards. And when I'm looking through them, and I'm like, Brian Pillman, Tom Zink, and I remember when they were in a tag team together in WCW. And it's really cool that I have that collection because I'll always remember things like, you know, what I grew up watching. I've learned to really appreciate and really honor my stepdad by always keeping a love and passion for this. Leilani Kai, um, I've moved on to the female wrestlers. Leilani Kai actually super good looking and extremely talented, extremely athletic. Um, if you want, I've not been a huge fan of women's wrestling in the past. I am so more now than I was many years ago because all they had was just, I hate to say it, but tits and ass. And while that may appeal to us when we're teenagers during the Attitude Era, as we grow older, we want to see women's matches that actually have some value to it and mean something. And Leilani Kai was long before the Attitude Era when women's wrestling was still classy. They took women's wrestling and took all the class out of it during the Attitude Era. Wendy Richter, uh, probably one of the most talented professional wrestlers. Um, there's not much more I can say about it because I've seen a lot of her matches when I was much younger. I haven't watched much of her matches now, but growing up, she was featured in a lot of the WWF matches I was watching. The Midnight Express, Dennis Conjuring, and Bobby Eaton. Um, is that right? Yeah, I was right. I know that there's been other people in there, the Randy Rose and Noble Austin, Ron Starr, but I was just making sure I wasn't just sprouting off some name. But the Midnight Express is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I obviously don't have a lot of knowledge of them, otherwise I wouldn't have to look that up. I just remember a lot of people telling me in recent they were favorite growing up. So I'm going to have to watch some more of their matches. But they're featured in Mid South. So, as I've been saying, Peacock has all of, well, not all of the Mid South wrestling matches, but they have a decent selection of it. So, um, if you want to see the Bushwhackers, also known as the Sheepherders, they were known as the Sheepherders in Mid South. They're in Mid South. Um, I believe that's everybody that I wanted to talk about in this podcast. I've obviously got a lot to learn about Mid South Wrestling, but I just wanted to talk about the featured guys in Mid South that I had heard of that maybe people hadn't done any research on, and maybe they just don't feel like doing the research. But I'll listen to something that's audio, or I'll watch something that's visual. I get it. Not everybody likes reading. It's not a big deal. And if you want to go and research some of these guys on Peacock, or you can even research them on YouTube and look these guys up, see some of their matches in the South Wrestling. I would definitely highly advise you to go do that because they have a lot of classic matches. I really enjoyed watching the Rat Pack matches, and Andre. I've watched some of his matches in there where he's in the 6-man tag matches, along with Austin and Sika and Big Cat Ernie Ladd. Like some of those matches with those guys are my favorite Mid South matches. And you get, and I think one of the reasons is because you really get to see Andre uh, at a much younger age when he was more agile and he could get around more, and he's even got more facial hair than he did when he was in WWF. You really get to see Andre in his prime, really doing some incredible work and not being the slow paced monster that got his butt handed to him at WrestleMania 3. You get to see a lot more great matches from Andre and Mid South. So if you want to see some old school matches and really learn some of the fundamentals of wrestling, you'll learn it from these guys in Mid South. Bill Watts had an incredible run with these guys in that promotion, and seeing that Bill Watts is from Bixby, and the headquarters of Mid South is Bixby. Maybe just one day, maybe just one day, there'll be another promotion that'll come out of Bixby, Oklahoma, and there'll be a place where you'll get to see amateur wrestling and professional wrestling on the same card. Just some food for thought. We'll be talking about that in later podcasts. I'll just drop a name for you, OZWF. Learn it. Learn the name. It's coming.